Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aspen Affairs on GrassRoots TV. I'm Debbie Braun, and today we're talking about local education issues that affect families, students, and our workforce across the Roaring Fork Valley. Colorado Mountain College Ballot Measure 7C. This proposal does not create a new tax or raise the mill levy. It simply asks voters to allow CMC to waive a state-imposed cap that currently limits how much revenue the college can collect from existing property tax rates. In short, 7C restores local flexibility that voters originally approved back in 2018. Supporters say this flexibility will help CMC fund programs like nursing, firefighting, trades, and teacher training, areas where demand is outpacing supply. And just a quick reminder, ballots are in the mail on Friday, October 10th. Early in-person voting begins Monday, October 27th. And Election Day, that's right, Tuesday, November 4th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Today, my guests are Matt G. with Colorado Mountain College and Steve Skadran, an ACRA board member, a local resident, speaking as a private citizen. Welcome to you both. Hello, guys.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad to get some time to talk about the college. It's just such a gem that we have here in the Roaring Fork Valley that maybe gets overlooked sometimes. So today it's going to be really fun to talk about CMC. Steve, I also want to disclose that you're an ACRA board member, but you're not speaking on behalf of the board either today. Private citizen, Steve. But you did a really great job, I thought, last month, giving an update to the ACRA board about 7C. So for people hearing about this for the very first time, what exactly does it do?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah.
So in 2018, as you said, the voters gave CMC authority to adjust its mill levy. And CMC used that authority to invest in a number of critical programs that keeps our local economies running. Programs for nurses and first responders and firefighters and police officers, and investing in all the skilled trade programs that keep us functioning, like automotive, our automotive program. And then over the last 2 years, in response to soaring property values, CMC lowered its mill levy, which resulted in $47 million going back to taxpayers.
Well, that might be the first time.
Yeah, ever. CMC was one of, if not the only, local government in Colorado to not take advantage of the windfall and let the voters let taxpayers keep their money.
Why'd you do that?
Because our board is fiscally responsible, and we had set a budget. We determined what our needs were, and we thought it was the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, many people would just go ahead and take that windfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Debbie, let me finish on one thing. So last year, in response to the rising property values, the state legislature in Denver put a cap on the amount of revenue growth local governments could generate. CMC, in the no good deed goes unpunished category, in lowering its mill levy, got caught beneath that cap.
I see.
And this vote on 7C is really asking the voters to return to CMC the authority to have flexibility in its mill levy decisions.
Great. Matt, a lot of folks hear ballot measure and they assume new taxes, and there's quite a few of them on the ballot this year. Can you explain clearly, will 7C raise anyone's taxes or change what people are paying? And just to be clear for the viewers, this measure is about waiving a state-imposed cap on how much CMC can collect from its existing mill levy. It doesn't add a new tax or increase the rates, I think. And this is what we hear in the community. It's like, oh, what is happening? So can you explain that? Is it just simply restoring flexibility voters originally improved in 2018? It seems like could be something else, but...
So, Debbie, the question is completely appropriate, and that's what you should be asking, is what does this mean to me as a taxpayer? And Steve was absolutely correct. The no good deed goes unpunished category of when our board decided to return or not to collect $25 million 2 years ago, and then last year $22 million, so in total $47 million that went uncollected. That was within the existing mill levy that we had.
Okay.
It happened to be that when the legislature added the new ceiling on revenues, it was using one of those as our baseline. So one of the years that we lowered our mill levy. So we kind of got caught below what the approved mill levy was between what the actual was in that year. So what does this mean to a typical taxpayer here? The real answer is we don't really know. And I don't mean to suggest that there is no impact. The flexibility that the Board of Trustees has to set a budget includes things like capital investments. So it's important to recognize that we are a public institution, but we are not a state institution. So because we're not state, the state does not fund our buildings. The state does not cover our bonds. The state does not provide resources for equipment for us. We have to self-fund those. And so as we look to expand things like a skilled trade center, which is what we're considering, or if we want to invest in housing, those typically will be above whatever the operating budget is for a given year. And so what Steve described was in those years we didn't have major capital projects that were considered, so we were able to return a very significant amount of taxes or tax revenue. As we move forward, we know that there are projects that we will have to consider that will require us to look at. And it could be an increase, but it's within the existing number. It's not going above what's already been approved. So the taxpayers approved a number for us, and it's 4.24 is our current mill levy, approved by the voters in 2018. And so it would be just restoring the authority to move within that number to adjust for things like Steve said, nurses, firefighters, first responders, police officers. They're really high-cost programs, and think, for example, Steve mentioned automotive. Automotive programs, they're great, but they require a lot of space. You can't put 15 students in a car. You can have 2 or 3 working on a car at a time. And so trying to make sure that we have enough capacity to meet the demand is really what we're looking at for space.
Well, you know what, it got me thinking here. You guys are the college, and you probably want your young voters to get out there and vote. Let's just take one step back. What the heck is a mill levy? For the people who are like, this is the first time voting, second time, even sometimes I'm like, Rachel yesterday explained the bond. What is really a bond?
Yeah.
So really, what is a mill levy? And I'm sorry, but I think it's important my educators tell our audience what we're actually talking about.
It comes from the Latin word mille, M-I-L-L-E. Matt, I actually looked it up,
So
Debbie,
we're about to get a lesson
which means
here.
like a thousandth of a thousandth.
Okay.
It's a rate. Matt, you can give the details on this, but generally it's a rate applied to a property value that results in revenue that a local government, CMC is a local government, the school district is a local government, the fire district is its own local government. That's revenue that's used to fund their operations.
It is. It's exactly as you described. So the quick sort of simple way to describe it to somebody who's never participated in an election before.
Or just bought a house.
Or just bought a house.
Yeah.
You bought a house, you bought it at a certain value. That value gets assessed by your county.
Yeah.
The county will tell you what that home is worth, and then there are taxes applied to the value of that property. They come in a different variety of forms, as Steve just mentioned. Ours happens to be one of those, which is a mill levy, and then it is applied to the value of the property that you own. Importantly, and this is not to make things more complicated, there are different types of assessments. And so commercial property is assessed at a different level than residential property. Importantly, in our state, the residential assessment rate has actually gone down almost every year for the past 5 or 6 years. So the amount of your property that you're paying taxes on is smaller now than it used to be, even though the value is going up.
I was like, that sounds crazy to me.
Yep, it's because the value goes up, the amount that they tax is smaller.
Okay.
Commercially, on the commercial side, that didn't used to be true. So actually, the business owners paid a higher tax rate, all other things equal, than anybody else.
Yeah.
That's also coming down. So I think what's important for our businesses in the area, their assessment rate is currently 29%. It's going to go down to 27% next year, and then 25% the year after, and we'll stay at 25%. So all of the things that they're seeing right now are actually, we'll have to kind of see where that nets out in a few years to see that you see both a reduction in the taxable value and the imposition of whatever these new rates might be. So kind of see, it might actually be that they're not paying anything new.
I think that's great. Thank you guys for explaining that. I think it's important that we try to educate as many people, not only on the issues, but what it means to them personally. And, you know, from a business perspective, you usually pay almost 3 times more than residential does. Right. But these programs, if you're talking about the culinary school or the ER or the teachers, we need the workforce pipeline. Right. So it's a workforce issue as much as it is probably an education issue as well. Yeah. CMC's been around.
No, I was just going to say the last time we ran a measure in 2018, the business community was the very first group that came out in favor, in support. And when I talked to those individuals about, well, why this tax, and was it about about the workforce? That's a part of it. But even the businesses that didn't hire our graduates necessarily, they supported CMC because they said CMC makes these communities, improves the quality of life in rural communities. You make sure we have teachers, you make sure we have nurses, you make sure we have police officers. And they said that provides value that is unique to rural communities. That we may be one of the few rural environments where you have a community or colleges that are able to provide that.
Yeah. My next question is why now? CMC's been around for decades. You've already have funding. So why bring it back to the voters, and what changed made that needed again? And what I think I'm hearing is, that state of Colorado has been pretty tricky lately, it seems like, with education. Yeah. But can you just walk us through that too?
Yeah, I can do it pretty briefly. Yeah. We didn't want to go back to the ballot. It's a lot of work. It's frankly costly to have to be on the ballot, and so.
And you're not just on the ballot in Pitkin County.
We're on the ballot in all are part of 9 counties.
9 counties.
So it's a very large district. So it's a substantial effort for us to consider this, and yet, we advocated at the Capitol when they were making the changes that Steve described, when they're putting in the new ceiling on revenues. We advocated to be able to use whatever the existing mill levies were. And the compromise position was from the legislature, they're going to put in a revenue cap, which is the 5.25 number that you see in the number. That applies to all local governments, so we're not alone. It's everybody in Colorado. But they gave language to us saying that any district that runs an election can be relieved of this, but they have to go to their taxpayers to request it. And so it was really the timing of, we had been planning housing expansion, skilled trades expansion. We've been looking at, we just doubled our nursing program recently. And so these are the kinds of capital projects that take years to plan. And as we start to plan those, the state came in and imposed a new limit on us. So we thought, okay, let's just try to clean this up if we can, and get back to where we were prior to the legislature's choice to impose a new limitation on us last year. So it was our board's choice, and for what it's worth, our board chair is Chris Romer, who is your counterpart over in the Vail Valley, and I think has advocated quite strenuously that this is about local control, and it's about letting your local officials manage their affairs in a way that's consistent with the needs of the community, and not let the state dictate how local enterprises are operated.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a local impact, because I know this is on many counties' ballots, but for Pitkin County specifically, Matt, can you help us just paint a picture close to home? If the measure passes, how might it affect programs right here in the Roaring Fork Valley?
Sure. I'll offer a few, and Steve very likely has a couple to add. Think about the Roaring Fork Valley and Colorado Mountain College. It's both the Aspen campus, but I think it's actually a network of campuses. So we have 5 campuses across the valley here. And each operates slightly differently. Steve's campus here in Aspen is focused on fine arts, culinary, as you mentioned. There's a lot of non-credit activity for retirees and others that participate in this kinds of pottery. Is very, very popular. But at our Spring Valley campus, that campus concentrates, that's where we have our law enforcement academy. Okay. So we train police officers for Aspen and Snowmass, and so we provide that training for them. Great. Our nursing program is based there, our business programs, and a lot of our other sort of environmental.
We have dorms at
We have not
campus.
Only dorms, we have dorms and apartments.
And apartments, great.
At that campus, and we just were able to buy into a project in Basalt, where Steve will have access to be able to provide housing to locals enrolled at the college as well in Basalt. So those are the kinds of things where you have active investments, but one that I think is maybe near and dear to some of the families around here. Concurrent enrollment is huge for us. 40% of the students at CMC are actually high school students, and so we augment the high school curriculum, and we're able to offer things like automotive technology that they may not have at their high school. And so we're able to offer that to families for free. So it's free to the students when they enroll in those. They pay fees on top of it, but the tuition at least is free to the students. So we're able to expand those. One that's a great program that Steve's campus in Carbondale did was for sort of the Basalt and Carbondale part of the Roaring Fork School District. We were able to apply for a $250,000 grant that ended up providing equipment to all the high school students to have respirators and all their fire gear to participate in the fire academy. So we were able to, while they were still in high school, actually train them to begin their training as firefighters. And so it's that kind of opportunity that because we're locally funded and very flexible, we can make those opportunities available. That would probably be impossible in any other school district.
Let me give you an example and one for the viewers as well. Y'all keep talking about concurrent enrollment. Again, what the hell is concurrent enrollment? Well, let me tell you. My son graduated in 2020 and did concurrent enrollment, and what that means to the people watching is when he went off to CMC, he already had a semester of college under his belt, and it saved me so much money.
Right.
So some of these kids are going into college already with an associate's degree, and that is incredible, and you just don't hear about that enough. So when you talk about concurrent, really it's getting them college ready in those classes and being able to succeed when they go on, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, the reality of higher education, you're listening to the national debate around this, is that it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use the word free, which I really liked a lot.
Yes,
for that.
to the families. And the schools pay, and we have a relationship with them. So there are.
Well, that's between you and the school.
There are resources that are transferred, but the families are able to participate without tuition.
I think that's amazing.
Debbie, Matt mentioned these critical programs, nursing and our police training. It's called CLETA program. The funding that the Board of Trustees would decide upon as a result of the change in this, if it's provided the local control, should the voters authorize this, goes to fund expansion of these programs. It is I said this at the chamber board meeting, it's as difficult to get into some of these programs, our fire program, our EMS program, the nurse program, for instance, as it is to get into Harvard. I mean, there's waiting lists. It's competitive. You have to.
So by the passage of this,
it will allow the Board of Trustees to have some flexibility.
So maybe offer more.
Yes,
or?
in how it
larger spaces. I mean, every skilled trade space we have is full with a waiting list. We can't fit more people into it.
If we want to train more automotive techs, or first responders, or firefighters.
Could we get some plumbers out there? Some plumbers, everyone.
Plumbers, HVAC, electrical, all of that is part of what we have.
Love my tradespeople.
Debbie, but this is the connection. Our Board of Trustees needs to have returned to it a certain authority that only the taxpayers can provide, and that authority is in local control. So our board can adjust the mill levy as necessary to address funding for these critical programs. And just in terms of real numbers, in 2018, when the voters gave the CMC authority, CMC was charging about $288 per $1 million of property value. If your property is worth $1 million, you're paying $288 to CMC.
Yeah.
And when these properties' value spiked, the board lowered that rate to about $200 per $1 million of property value. And that $200 is where we're stuck. But when we do the future projections, the budgets call for additional funding to address these programs so we can serve the needs of the community. And that range, and the board would have to decide this in the future, should local control be returned to the board, the range would be probably around $216
It's hard to know exactly because property values change, but we're working within a known limit.
A known range.
Between 4.24 mils is the ceiling. We're currently at 3.2 mils, so it's somewhere in that ballpark. So it's already been approved. It's already been applied in the past. We're just, as we move forward, every year the board looks at its budget and tries to set a mill levy in December according to the needs of the college at that time. So that's the hard part, is it's not a fixed number all the time. That's why we were able to reduce it a few years ago.
Yeah.
Got it. Can either of you share an example of a student or a program that really shows what CMC does for the Valley, something that 7C could help expand or strengthen?
Yeah. Well, I just mentioned, I think, the kind of thing like our firefighter training program over in Carbondale. That program is a partnership with Roaring Fork Fire. We're able to provide the instructors. By the way, that is probably one of the, you want to know the most costly thing with offering these kinds of programs. It's actually making sure we have the talent to train the students. Yeah. And that's something we're really proud of, but it's a major challenge. So we're able to offer that kind of training, say real fire training or EMT basic and fire basic training to students while they're still in high school. Dramatically expanding the kinds of opportunities at the high school. An example in the Roaring Fork School District recently is they donated if you go down on 27th Street, you get near where the RAFTA kind of bus station is, look across the street. Across the street is actually where the Roaring Fork School District has historically had its bus barn. Mm-hmm. Well, the 3 bays that are facing Grand Avenue there, those actually they donated to us. So we entered into an agreement with the school district. They gave us the space for free, and in return, we outfitted those with our own capital we brought in to make those 3 automotive sites with a classroom. That program filled with a waiting list within an hour. So this was immediately full with students that were just waiting for this. It was the first time in 25 years automotive tech had been offered in the district. And the really fun part, because we had that facility and we have a grants division at the college, we were able to parlay that into a $500,000 grant to transition all of the equipment into electric vehicle service work too. So students can be trained in traditional combustion plus electric vehicles as well. So they can serve all of the community here and have that particular skill set. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, in addition, I suppose, is that we know there's a nursing shortage, and one of the things that we did 4 years ago to address that is there aren't enough clinical spaces in our hospitals. We have wonderful hospital partners, but they're still all pretty small hospitals, generally speaking. So you can't fit more people into a space to observe. So what we did is we created simulation labs. And so we actually took some of the space at the college and built simulation labs where students can do 50% of their training. It allowed us to expand the number of nurses going through the program with the exact same number of clinical spots at the hospital. So those are the kinds of ways that, we have to be creative. We're not a major university, but we think that we're a very relevant institution for the Valley, and we try to be very responsive to the needs of the community as they're adapting. We want to adapt with them.
Man, I want to comment on responsiveness. Debbie, I have to mention something County Commissioner Greg Poshman asked me several years ago. He wanted automotive techs trained for EV vehicles. And we are now doing it. It took a couple years.
Does Greg know this?
I'm telling Greg.
Greg Postman, I see you out there. You better.
I also want to give another real-world example.
Yeah.
We had you said what's like a student or a real-world case.
Yeah.
We had a student
or
in our
program
at our fire in our fire program, firefighting program. A student recently graduated and was offered a job. Can I give real numbers, Matt? Real salary numbers?
Yes, as long as you don't offer a name.
Yeah, no names, but was offered a job at one of our local regional fire departments at $84,000 starting salary. That's the demand the market is placing as a result of the need for the skilled labor, and CMC is producing it as a result of.
Well, I mean, Steve, I cannot believe at our board meetings, the 2 things Steve says all the time is, come learn how to sew. Come you take your old stuff and repurpose it. So I think that's pretty cool. And of course, the culinary school. I mean, that was a real connection with the Aspen Food and Wine Classic, along with the college in coordinating efforts, which has really been quite amazing for the college, I
Debbie,
believe.
this past Food and Wine, we had 10 of our culinary students, and they came from a couple of our different schools, Steamboat and Breckenridge, as well as Aspen, working behind the scenes at Food and Wine, supporting the Best New Chefs program.
That's crazy.
And we can offer something at the Aspen campus of CMC that Cornell's culinary program can't offer. That we can give.
It's amazing.
We can give students rubbing elbows with the celebrity chefs right here. So.
Well, unfortunately, our time's about up. There's like a lot to say, and it's been fun talking with you guys. But why vote yes or no? So for someone who's still maybe on the fence, what's the best reason to vote for 7C? And if someone's leaning no, what would you want them to understand before deciding?
Let me try to tackle that with one answer, perhaps, because I think it's the same answer in both cases. I think the value of the institution, I hope, is evident to the people who live here and that they're able to experience it. But it is not a new tax increase. It is the same tax rate that has been in place. And our board is a very ethical board. They actually won the National Award for Public Institutions for Integrity and Innovation for boards. And so they've demonstrated that they are a responsible governing board in our local districts and will do the right thing. And so I think the question to any individual is to look at, what are the things that you like to see in your valley, and what are the things that you value, and how we provide those. And if you're on the fence, I think it's also looking at the board and the integrity of their past, of what they've done in the past and their decisions. They were not forced to return $47 million back to the taxpayers. They did it because they said it was the right thing, that they want us to be a part of this community for the long run. And so that's the kind of relationship we want. And so I would encourage anybody who is on the fence to get to know us a little more. Look at our budget is online. You can go look at it.
Where do we go online to look at it?
So if you go to Colorado Mountain College and just type in budget, our budget will appear. You can study it. We've always had a clean audit. We have no challenges or no findings. And so I think look at how we operate, and I hope that provides confidence to people that they know that we are attempting to represent the best interests of this community.
And then, Steve, looking ahead 10 years, and you have about 30 seconds, what in 10 years, if 7C passes, what do you think people are going to be saying, or what is it going to look like? What does our future look like with a yes on 7C?
In 10 years? I was at the hospital. This is what they're going to say. I had to go to the hospital. And this nurse helped me. And she saved my life. And that nurse is trained at CMC. That fire that's burning in the backcountry, we're all debating about how to exit. Does Aspen need a second bridge? It's the firefighters who are suppressing the fire to keep us safe. They're trained at CMC. The police officers keeping us safe on the highway, they come out of CMC. That's why your life may depend on it.
Wow. Well, that's big stuff then, right? Important, consequential ballot initiatives. People are very worried about the cumulative effect. So it's good to know that we are not raising taxes, we are returning money, control, and that we're fiscally responsible. So I want to thank our guests today, Steve and Matt from Colorado Mountain College. They are, thank you both for joining me today and helping to explain the measure, even really some rudimentary questions like mill levies. And I just want to remind our viewers, ballots begin to arrive on October 10th. Early voting opens October 27th. Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th. Measure 7C is on the ballot, and it's about keeping education and workforce training strong in our mountain towns. I'm Debbie Braun. This is Aspen Affairs. Thanks for watching, and we're going to see you next time.